And welcome to Uncarcerated. Brand new episode. This is the official cast, the new cast. I feel like, remember the Four Horsemen in wrestling? Ric Flair?
Oh, the Andersons?
The Four Horsemen really weren't the Four Horsemen unless it was Arn and Ole Anderson, and Tully Blanchard and Ric Flair. Those are the Four Horsemen, right?
Yeah.
Well, we finally have our Four Horsemen.
Well,
just three of us.
Okay. Yep. Your math is solid.
We are super excited that myself, Leigh Scott, Kevin
Scotts,
Julius Irving.
That's right.
Oh.
Feels good. It feels right, doesn't it?
Feels right.
So,
right.
Uncarcerated is the show where we talk to people impacted by the justice system. Not just folks coming in and out of incarceration, but also the folks that work on these things, that work on systems change. And we thought, like, who fits the mark better than anybody? Whose brain do we need to complete this triumvirate? And it was Julius Irving. Julius, Community Spring fellow, now works at Community Spring. One of my fellow Represent Justice ambassadors just got done making a movie. You got so many things going on. Please tell our tens of listeners about yourself.
Well, Leigh just did a good job introducing me. I'm a local activist. I'm an alchemist, a father. Like he said, I'm a Represent Justice ambassador. And, I'm just an advocate for change. I'm an advocate for revolution. I'm an advocate for speaking truth to power. And, I'm not really good at introducing myself and, bragging on myself, but, I'm just a passionate revolutionist.
Julius and I work together at Community Spring, so I get to see him regularly.
Yeah, I'm real envious of that.
It's awesome. And then I just want to say that a couple days ago, we had a meeting. We had a Zoom meeting with some folks who are putting together a local reentry resource fair. And so Julius was in his office, and I was in my office having the meeting, and a few minutes into the meeting I get a text message from Julius, and I look at it, and it was a picture of me on the screen, and he simply said, "Ol' albino turtle looking ass."
Yeah, you need to be chin checked every once in a while. Just every once in a while, remember who you actually are.
Old albino turtle looking ass. I was just like, so I started laughing. People on the meeting were like, "What's so funny over there, you guys?" That's awesome. So anyway, Julius brings like a tremendous amount of like heart and wisdom and passion, and also he's a goofy motherfucker too, which is amazing. I love it.
I love
all the things.
Like Julius is the person that really lights up a room when he comes into it. And this is going to be weird. We're going to talk about you too. Like, you're not in the room for a minute, but I've respected this guy and loved this guy since I met him. But one of the things that I really appreciate about Julius, I would see him out at the shelter that all three of us have worked at. He would see people, and it was like the first time he had ever seen them. If it was the 100th time he'd seen them, just the biggest smile and asking them how they're doing. And I don't know if you know what that meant to some of those folks. There's one guy in particular that my wife Abigail's been working with for about a year, 2 years out in the garden. He doesn't get that. Like, he doesn't have anybody express joy that they are seeing him, like nobody in his life is like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad to see you." And like, that was incredibly healing. Can you talk a little bit about, I know that's kind of an ethereal, abstract thought, but can you talk a little bit about the way you express joy to people and like really let people know what you're feeling and thinking? I think that's so important. And we don't do it as men. We definitely don't do it as people impacted by the prison system.
Yeah, for sure. At some point, right, I recognize that there's these valuable things, right, that we can give to everybody that we meet and still have all of it. It's certain stuff that's very valuable, right? You can't purchase it on Amazon. You can't pull it out your pocket. But you can possess it and give it to people, and just a warm smile, recognition, because a lot of times in life I was going through a lot and I just felt like nobody saw it, nobody cared. There was a time in my life I can recall like walking in the rain, right, coming from Krispy Kreme donuts, and I was thankful it was raining because I was crying. And I was on the phone with my mom saying that I can't be the only person that feels this way. I can't be the only person that's going through this. Man, I wish I had a friend like me. And then I started praying, asking God to, put me in the space with people who felt the same way and allow me to be the friend to them that they have been to the world and never received it back. So, I started just being kind to people, and I saw like being kind to people made them smile and made me feel good too. So it was just like something I could do for others, but also do for myself at the same time. And yeah, I enjoy doing that for people.
Have you seen the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Nah, but I need to check it out.
Yeah, I think I told you to watch it. But there's this scene in the movie where, it's like this big dramatic middle of the movie explainer scene. And the guy says, being kind is my superpower. That is my weapon. And it just really resonated with me that we don't have much. Like, I don't have millions of dollars. I can't give people much, but I can give them recognition.
Facts.
What's that thing you say like regularly that like I hope you know what you mean to me? Something like
yeah. I love you and I hope you know what you are to me.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure. And then I have the 3-6-9 mantra, right? It's something that I say 3 times a day, back to back, 6 times a day, back to back, and then 9 times a day, back to back. And my 9 mantra is, it's so nice to be nice.
I was doing the 3-6-9 thing for a little while, but my ADHD is so bad I can't follow through. I got to follow through better. All right, so I want to catch our listeners up who don't know you, who maybe know Kevin and I. Can you talk a little bit about the projects that you've worked on recently, whether it's political education or the Represent Justice film? Just kind of let the audience know, now that we know who you are, what you work on.
What the fuck are you doing?
Okay, well...
yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
Okay, well, I just helped co-create a political education / civic engagement program called Community Power Building. To me, I look at it as a way to teach community members how to fight collectively. And whenever there's not a war going on, not a fight going on within your communities, what to do to prepare yourself for, hard times coming. Outside of just that whole political education thing, one of the things that I really want to talk about is the movie coming out. It's about the criminal justice system. I had experience. I've had multiple experiences with the criminal justice system, but my most recent experience, right, I felt like I had finally done enough, or the circumstance of my situation wasn't enough for me to stand there and that the court system would see me as the person I had become.
You had insulated yourself from that kind of harm.
Yeah, for sure. It was surprising to me to find out in court that none of that shit mattered. I heard the judge and the state attorney both say that, all that's good. I can tell that you changed. I can tell that you've done something good, but here in court, it's not about any of those things. This court system is about punishment and, rehabilitation second. And they actually said that, the primary function is punishment, and the rehabilitation can come from that punishment, then so be it. But the primary function is simply to punish you. And, they sentenced me to 90 days in the county jail. And I was thankful, I still had both my jobs. I know I was great. I had money on my commissary, but 99% of the people in there, going through a similar circumstance, that would be enough to restart their whole life. 90 days in the county jail is enough for you to come home to, no apartment, eviction notice, your car is gone, all types of things. So many people are being punished and having their whole lives torn apart just behind 45 to 90 days in the county jail.
Yeah, I want to pause there real quick, because that 45 to 90 day thing, I think, goes unnoticed. Even in the work we do, we're often working on, changing the prison system and sentencing and early release and all those, reentry, all that kind of stuff. Misdemeanor stuff kind of gets tossed to the side, but 45 to 90 days can ruin your life. And I saw it, we had a guest on the show right after Christmas who had come home. He was homeless, went to jail for theft, came home, got into sober living, got a job, was going to NA meetings on an ankle monitor, doing all of that on an ankle monitor. He got rearrested, violation, for being 15 minutes late. On Christmas Eve. He had stayed too long at an NA meeting, right? Eventually they were going to let him go again. It was enough time sitting in there waiting for his violation of probation hearing, his VOP hearing. It was enough time to lose his job, lose his bed at the sober living, be homeless again. And I think these judges kind of think, oh, it's just 60 days. It's just 90 days. I'm doing you a favor by not making it 6 months, but I could give you a year. I'm just giving you 3 months. But it's enough to ruin someone's entire life. And think about the stress on the system that puts, I mean,
it might as well be a year. It's like the same outcome. If I go in there for 60 days, I'm going to come home to the same hole as if I was gone for 9 months or 12 months or 366 days. Like, I have lost my car, my apartment, all my belongings, my job. Like, stability is, I mean, it's an utter grenade thrown into your life, whether it's a month, 2 months, whatever.
Yeah, $100 might as well be $1 million.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So like, it's just the devastation is complete. And also like the idea that I'm going to put you into this cage, punishment, rehabilitation, maybe, but like, what kind of magical process do people think is happening in that cage that's actually like doing anything other than harming the person in the cage? Like what sort of like surreal transformation do people imagine happens in the setting of incarceration? Like it doesn't actually exist there, but the common perception is, okay, this person has done something, he will be put into this cage, and that will somehow make him better.
And I've talked to police officers and one or two co-responders that still have that belief that we will somehow legislate mental health, substance abuse recovery, that like, we're going to lock you up and you're going to get medication, you're going to get sober, you're going to get food. I just don't think people understand that like those things don't happen. And even if they did, they pale in comparison to the added trauma of having to be in a cage. And then the trauma of what you have to go through when you come home. You know, the number one killer of folks coming out of incarceration is overdose. I mean, I think we have the data set enough to show that putting people in cages just does not have the effect that is intended, whether you intended it for it to be rehabilitation or you say the quiet part out loud and you intended it for it to be punishment. It just isn't helping them. It's not helping the community. You know, what do you think we have to do to get past that mindset that like cages are the answer to anything?
Because there's a more common mindset that's existed for so long. You know, that's why incarceration is what it is, because there's still large numbers of people who feel like that's the answer. They feel like the war on crime, and the war on crime actually means the war on criminals. And the war on criminals actually means the war on people. You see what I'm saying? Because crimes aren't being committed by, you know, animals, they're being committed by people. So our own government has waged a war on the people experiencing trauma, experiencing poverty, and trying their hardest to get out of it. So I think that we have to highlight stories, you know, from people who's gone through the system and experienced that punishment. And, you know, the movie you made, the movie I made, I think that's a good start. And just being persistent and just putting the messaging out there, connecting with others in a huge way that we can solve all of the problems that I think that we face as human beings, is to connect around those issues and prioritize it. Because these days there's so many stuff that can distract you and make the problem, you know, not seem so bad. But in the older days, it was like not so much social media, and the problems were consistently in front of you where they had to be dealt with. So I think that I think we're making a good start here right now. Any entity or any business or any structure that has access to large numbers of people and also has influence over the peoples is a powerful entity, right? The criminal justice system at any given time, between the DOC and just people out on probation, have access to about 144,000, 200,000 people in the state of Florida, and they choose to punish those people. You know what I'm saying? It's like to have that many people under your care, under the name of correction, right? They're called correctional institutes, but the primary function is punishment. Why not just rename them punishment institutes, right? And then when you have a job that's structured, and it's like it's structured in like certain areas of the job are prioritized, and the number one primary function is punish, and everything else is like secondary to that primary function. It's easy to show up to work and say, you know what, as long as I hit the primary thing, I'm good, right? Yeah, so I hope that kind of answered the question, but I think that the real power of change lies with the people. You know, we can change the system, but I think we have to change the way that we approach problems collectively.
You know, obviously it's devastating to people's lives in the world of incarceration, but that's not like breaking news. So it's not like, oh, we just suddenly realized that incarceration is not doing great. I think it's going to take some sort of tipping point for us to like financially, like for people to actually give a shit on some level, be like, oh, this is costing me money. There's some sort of component there where like, I don't really care about dismantling this until this affects me. Even people that I know are like, tell me how this is going to impact my personal bank account. There's that too. And I think part of it, what's helping or so I tell myself, or what might help, is just simple like illumination. For so many generations, that whole system has operated like on a subterranean level. It has relied on being operating in the dark. Now there's like cell phone footage coming out. People are actually getting a window into what's actually happening in those places. So there's some sort of like level of illumination that's happening now that's sort of getting into like the cultural zeitgeist. People are seeing it in a way that they never saw before, getting like a little like window into, oh fuck, this is what prison really looks like on the inside. It's not like what I've seen in the movies or the TV show. So there's some level of that. And no doubt, like the longer you look at the world of incarceration, the uglier it gets, which is weird because that's exactly what my ex-girlfriend said about me.
Oh, albino turtle ass.
Oh,
Yeah, my wife's been pointing out the parallels between the what we're seeing with mass deportations and detentions and what we've been doing for 100 years with incarceration. She's like been really upset, in tears, that she's watching this become a runaway train that just lives in the background of our lives the way that our prison system does. We're going to go to some protests about anti-ICE and deportations, and then we're going to get up and go to work the next day and forget about it, and the news cycle will happen. And it's such a massive, nefarious system. It becomes a runaway train, and people don't focus on it, and we normalize it in a way. And I think that that's already happened. We're trying to like pull that back with the prison system, but people drive by every day, 6 police officers pulling over 1 black man, right? They drive by every day someone who is experiencing schizophrenia and they don't even look at it. They drive by the jail all the time and they don't think about the human beings that are back there. I think you're right, Kev, that like looking right at the problem and humanizing it and, shining a light on it could possibly sort of like make it to where it's not the background noise of our lives, because we should all be enraged about this. If people knew what went on in jails and prisons, if they knew how we were talked to and treated and physically and emotionally and sexually abused, if they knew that, if it wasn't just good guys are here, bad guys are here, and think about all the propaganda. I mean, CBS's entire lineup is First 48, Law and Order, like we've normalized this idea that we can just other someone and not think about the trauma that comes behind that. Like the trauma of 45 days and what that can do to you.
Yeah. What if that was your child? Like, what would you want for your child? Like if your son or your daughter somehow got into some sort of trouble and needed some healing, like what would you think if that was the response that they got?
So, when's the film come out, Julius?
I'm hoping to be released sometime in mid to late July, but the dates are still, to be announced. I'll see the first cut of the film next week on Monday.
Oh.
Cool. Yeah, I got my first cut back last week. We're into the second part of the editing phase. It was really crazy to see yourself on film and to see this idea that you had that was nothing turn into something, so I'm excited to see what you came up with.
One of the second ideas of the film was the idea of building community and while inside incarceration, right? So while I was in there, I chose to use my time to connect with the guys and share some of the trauma-informed care that I had received, right? Because I had gone through a lot before that situation, but meeting Lindsay and Matt's and, going through the fellowship was my first time receiving like trauma-informed care. I had received like, attempts at help before then, but it wasn't trauma-informed. So it always ended up making me feel like alienated or like the person that's helping me is above me, or, I'm saying, I didn't feel the connection with the other people and organizations I reached out to for help when I was going through the most trauma. So, bringing that kind of trauma-informed care, lived experience, and, the organizing skills that I had learned, I was able to change the atmosphere of the pod and, help some dudes experience levels of peace that we all recognize we didn't even have in the free world, right? So in that moment, I recognized that what we had amongst each other, that connection, that support was something that was needed out there too. So I think that it's something to that. It's something to like, especially in my demographics, it's something to us like not looking at the situation from an individual standpoint, but understanding that what happens to one person happens to all of us. You see what I'm saying? Like actually giving a fuck, because so many people feel like, hey, when it happened to me, shit, nobody gave a fuck. So why I'm gonna give a fuck when it happens to you?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just worried about my four and no more. Or living next to each other, if something happens to your neighbor, but as long as it didn't happen to you, you don't give a fuck really. You see what I'm saying? So I think that we have to build a connection that turns neighborhoods into communities. There aren't many thriving communities inside of the affected demographics. There's a lot of neighborhoods, but thriving communities where we're all connected and we all share a sense of responsibility to the things that happen out here and the things that don't happen out here. So I'm trying to reestablish that, like going into these spaces, right? Just showing love, showing trauma-informed care, and trying to connect the community members. You know, first around just peace, love, and hair grease. You know, something easy, something real easy, and then that's in preparation for later to connect around
the big pieces of food.
For sure.
I really, the more I get into doing this work, the more important I think community is the antidote. Community is the super weapon that we have. Think of a problem. Building community is the answer to that problem. And it's so hard in a post-truth world. I'm reading this book right now called Present Shock. And the theory has been, for 50 years, we've been in future shock. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to go to Mars. Everything was in the future, and it was scary and daunting and, kind of the residuals of like, maybe nuclear war will happen. We don't know what happens. We're going to get there. Well, we're here now. We're in the future, and now we're all shocked by the future. And the theory that this guy, Doug Rushkoff, has is that it's called narrative collapse. We're in the middle of narrative collapse. That if you walk into a room and you throw out a problem, a news article to 10 people, you'll get 10 different truths, 10 different perspectives on that one problem. And it didn't used to be that way. It used to be something came through the news cycle. It took us a couple of months to digest it as a community. And then we would all kind of arrive at the same answer. Objectively, we would all say, oh, this war is bad or this thing is good. It's not that way anymore. At hyper-individualization and social media, we all have a different opinion. And so in a post-truth world, like, community is the way to get kind of everybody on the same page, but it's incredibly difficult to do it right now. Everybody's got lives. Everyone has their own thing that they care about. Genocide in Gaza. I care about the environment. It's hard to get everybody on the same community as the antidote to everything that we're going through. In sort of the broader sense, with everything that's going on in the world, we're at war, we're watching mass deportations, all these different things happening. It feels like we're out of control of any change. How does that affect us as people impacted by the justice system? And everyone's sort of like got a sense of impending doom. If everybody's at like an 8, I would say those of us that have been to jail and prison are at like a 10. Can you talk about, outside of what we give a shit about here with helping folks through the justice system, can you talk about like how the state of the world affects us? How does that show up for y'all?
Yeah, things feel tenuous for everybody, but especially I think for people who've been through some shit. I mean, like, if you have a PhD from Harvard right now, you're like, I don't know what the future's going to be, much less if you're some dude who just spent decades in a cage or whatever it is. Like, I mean, for folks coming home or who have been home for a while, like finding a job, finding a place to live. How am I going to make ends meet? What is happening in the world? There's like seemingly like we're like devolving into this bizarre police state. And like the whole world is on fire. That everything feels so threatening and unsure. There's no ground whatsoever to grab onto. Things feel really tenuous. And I think for folks who've been through the trauma of incarceration and all of its cascading joys that come from that, all the problems, the compounding barriers that come from that, it just feels cranked up even a little higher for our people, really.
So, how do I feel? How does it make me feel seeing the current state of the world and, all of this stuff?
You love it.
Nah, it's not that I love it, but it's like, I feel, okay. I still feel blessed. I still feel powerful. I still feel like, now is my time. I grew up going through shit.
I knew you were going to land there.
I was telling you.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's true.
It's like all the concerns that I hear the world expressing was concerns that existed when I was a kid and had no problems. I heard all of my, I saw people going through these same issues in my community. I heard my parents talking about this shit. I heard my grandparents talking about it. I heard my uncles talking about it. I grew up, and when I started gathering more life experience, I was experiencing this same shit 12 years ago. You see what I'm saying? And you know, I've been seeing people in my community one day and just gone for the next 20 years the next day. I've been seeing people in my community defending their home within the full extent of the law and still catch 10 years in prison. Welcome home, Jeremy Williams. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, so like,
when I first saw
yeah.
people upset about the state, you know, like senators were going through the ICE detention facilities and saying, look at the conditions. They are eating this shit food and the water is horrible. I was like,
surprise.
Go to Suwannee Correctional. Go to ACI.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that this is okay and we need to be upset about it. We should be pissed about it. But this has been going on in the black community and for folks at the poverty level for 60 years.
Also, you want to tell you why I feel more empowered now too, because I feel like, damn, now that the world's waking up, seeing the problems that been exist, that I may have more help in making a change now. Because, you know, it was a time where motherfuckers were screaming about this same shit. And people were saying, you know, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, work a little harder. You see what I'm saying? I don't see what you're talking about. You have every opportunity in the world. You see what I'm saying? And, so I feel like now that people are aware of the problem, we can solve the problem. When you name it, you can tame it. There was a lot of people that refused to put a name on it. You see what I'm saying? Or they just called it something else. Like they called it, instead of calling it our problem, they called it your problem. So, you know, I think that sometimes whenever a situation like this holds a great potential, knock down some of the walls in between people, and we could possibly come together as just a human race, because we're all being in danger now. We all under the same fire now. You see what I'm saying? Because it's easy to deny it when it's far off. It's not in my neighborhood. It's not in my community. It's not in my house. I reckon, that's so. You can always change the channel and look at something else. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people have known like these kind of issues existed in the world, but it was something easier to look at, so they chose to look at it. But now it's the thing where you got to see this shit. It's the breeding ground for evolution. It's the breeding ground for revolution. You see what I'm saying? A drastic, far-reaching change in the way the masses think and behave. When the masses are affected by a common problem, that's an important and critical time for real leaders to step in and start changing the messaging. You see what I'm saying? Because the old messaging just isn't hitting anymore for the rich, for the poor, for the in-between. So now's the perfect time to stay calm, to do what you were born to do, and to step up to the forefront as a person who's calm under fire, because we've been going through it, we've been affected, and we understand what we need. You see what I'm saying? So I think that for all the leaders out there, for all the people who have the lived experience, like all of that shit that we went through that we thought was just, what the fuck? That was actually preparing us for this moment. You see what I'm saying? Because the school of hard knocks is something you got to just be chosen for. There is no application process. You see what I'm saying? The life got to choose you to go through that shit. And all of us who have gone through the school of hard knocks and made it out, who have reached the point of no return and come back, it's our time.
Whenever Kevin and I have to give a speech somewhere or go talk to a class, we try to work in the words hard knocks. We have a little side bet that one of us can work in hard knocks. It's hilarious.
That's super cool.
As fucked up as things are, and as tenuous as it feels, this does feel like we're in some strange opportunity zone as well. Like I think I'm like hanging on to some level of optimism that we're in this sort of like rupture precedes revolution chapter right now, and like we're sort of in the rupturing, but what's about to come through is hopefully something stronger and better, more like based in community. Hopefully.
Can I go back to one thing before we wind it down here? Julius, you touched on something that I want to get y'all's perspective on, because this comes up for me when I'm talking about things, or I'm having to go give a talk to, mixed company where there's impacted people and the donor class and, police officers all in the same room. How we treat people that are still inside, the experiences that we had, that we created for ourselves while we were inside to heal, to get us through, whether it was me facilitating classes in prison or the group you started in jail or meditation for you, Kevin. We had these experiences that we created for ourselves that were incredibly healing, that created community. And yet I don't want to give credit to anything that goes on inside, because it's like a really tight needle to thread where you're like, hey, I had this beautiful experience with my brothers inside and it was incredibly healing. The system police, legislators, judges go, oh, look, it works. I sent someone to this cage and they had this beautiful experience. So how do we express that we did it for ourselves, right? Make no mistake about it. The system did not create this. We had to go above and beyond to go to meditation class or to create I had to draw up curriculum to facilitate these classes. Talk about those experiences while not giving credit to the system itself.
Like that, it's so easy to say, oh, well, yeah, the system worked like you said. But I think that shining a light to the fact that, it wasn't jail. It wasn't incarceration that did it. It was what I was able to do when I had time with self, when I wasn't so locked into the world, giving hours of my life to a company for $7 or $10. Because, out here it's like, you don't even have time. If you're actually going through the system, trying to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, then you have to dedicate so many hours of your life to other things besides yourself. So it wasn't incarceration. It was an opportunity to truly sit with myself without external pressures, in connection with other people with the similar lived experiences, right? So let's not big up incarceration, because incarceration has been around, right? And people still, once you experience incarceration, the odds of you experiencing it again are super high. You see what I'm saying? Why is that? You see what I'm saying? So I think that what's important to highlight from those experiences for me was the opportunity to actually sit with self. And all of us experienced that thing together, but when we got back out, it was not impossible, but it's so much harder to have that same connection.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because it costs to be free. Freedom ain't free. You see what I'm saying? And there's so much stuff pulling your time away. So the biggest thing that we have actually is time. And because my time is my life, right? So we give our time and our life to so many other things besides just self, besides healing, besides change. So to me, I think that the opportunity to really connect with self and others is what's needed out here. So we got to start trying to build something out here that gives people the opportunity to really sit with self and not have the results of sitting with self immediately sucked away when you attach back to the world.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because it gets, so it's something wrong with society as a structure. It's something wrong with the system of freedom as a structure, because it pushes people back into, the system. You see what I'm saying? And I've never heard a person incarcerated say,
you hear that?
Yeah, I did hear it.
Yeah.
Let me move this out.
I think I got it.
But I think there'll always be those people who just choose to see things from a narrative or from a perspective that strengthens their behaviors. So fuck them. There's nothing we can say or do that's going to get them to think differently. But to the ones who we can change, let's change them. Let's keep putting the truer narrative out there, the real lived experience out there. And let's also show them too, outside of just telling them with verbally, let's show them what we can do. And we're doing that now. So yeah, that's the best I could offer to that question.
I know this has come up so many times, but like the good things that happen during the course of incarceration are all like despite the prison system. It's not like with help from. It's like any good thing, you got to like go against the stream. It's an uphill battle, like doing classes, meditation, music, education, all that shit came from other prisoners and their loved ones. It was not because of like the great support of the Department of Corrections. It's like always like you got to grind against the momentum of the system to have like positivity appear. And like with your brothers and sisters that are incarcerated, like those things happen, but it's because everyone had to sort of like fight to like find those precious things together. And then even like the things that the system would take credit for example, like I got a cabinet making certificate. However, the teacher was the janitor. He never taught anyone how to build cabinets, but they gave me a certificate nevertheless. So they would take credit for like, look what we did. Like we're actually helping people. Like we gave Kevin, like we've given him a skilled trade, but it was all smoke and mirrors. It didn't actually exist. It wasn't a real thing. So even when they would say, look what we have done, it's not even genuine. And then separately, like you can't abuse me 98% of the time and then support 2% of the time and expect me to be like, you're the support people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you're amazing. Like you cannot have the accumulation of your efforts and all of the things and attempt to then like spin it and put a shine on it that simply just does not exist. Like, any good thing was in spite of and in opposition to what they actually tend to do on a daily basis.
That's why I fight so hard against this idea of police officers as social workers. You know, you cannot be my captor, the guy who handcuffs me, pepper sprays me, sticks me in jail, hunts me, pulls me over. You can't be that person institutionally and then say, we do a youth mentoring group. We do juvenile justice. We do reentry. We show up for mental health incidents with a mental health professional. I get your intent. And I'm sure there is some harm reduction in that. But it's still, leave that to folks with lived experience or leave it to professionals. You cannot have it both ways.
Yeah, you can't
and I will always fight against that. Yeah. And you know, the illusion that, you know, it's the cop who shows up and plays basketball in the hood. Right? You get a photo op and look at this. He's connecting the restorative justice circles. I think it's bullshit. You know, like, you are what you are. You've been that way. I hope that we move towards you being less that way. You know, if you want to get CIT trained and you want to get trauma-informed care certified and understand what we go through better to do your job less abusively, I'm for that. But don't show up as social workers. Yeah. All right. On that note, I'll get pulled over on the way home, so that'll be fun. This has been fun. I could talk to you guys for hours. This is the show.
Hell yeah.
This is the show.
I can't wait to get some other people in the room too, like hear some other stories and learn some more shit. You know what I mean? I'm always like thinking like 2 ears, 1 mouth. I just want to learn more. I just want to shut the fuck up and listen. Yeah.
We're going to have some great guests coming up on Uncarcerated. Of course, you can find us on Apple and Spotify, as well as our website, uncarcerated.org, where you too can sign up to be a creator. If you've got articles, art, poems, spoken word, you got your own podcast, you can press a little button on uncarcerated.org. If you're a justice impacted person that wants to get your story out there, you can email us at uncarceratedpod@gmail.com and we'll have you on the show, or you can go to the website and drop us a message there.
Oh, albino turtle looking ass. Fuck you, Julius.